I'm now doing a small recap, which is saying we've survived the European first part of the KET event.
Yeah! Woo, 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 woo!
And I'm hoping that somebody can bring in Sandhya right now, because I really want to welcome her. She has had such a busy day. So if it's possible, if Sandhya is anywhere in the neighborhood, please put her on. She is in the waiting room.
Yeah, I can see she's backstage and just entering now. There she is. Yeah. Whoop, whoop, whoop.
All the lovely ladies complete. Hello, Sandhya.
Hello. Hi.
Okay, well, we've managed this one, Sandhya, and I leave it up to you from here. Welcome in Amsterdam. While you are in Singapore, here it's just afternoon. With you, it's already later in the evening. And I know you've had a very busy day, so thank you for being here at all. And so sorry that we didn't meet up this year. So we definitely need a better year. So as long as you guys in Singapore are doing so well as that you're doing, I'll be there. Okay. Take it from here, please.
Good luck, Sandhya.
Great, thank you. Yeah.
Sonalie, hello.
Hello.
Hello. I'm leaving the stage to both of you. I have nothing to say about the Asia part. That's for you, Sandhya and Sonalie. And thank you both for being there in the evening. So, floor is yours.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Ira.
Get me out of here.
Yeah. Okay.
Great, Sonalie.
Let's do it. Let's do it. So,
oops, I just lost you.
Chronicling the incredible growth of the Asia protein industry. Earlier on in January, we actually put out the first in 25 companies total, and actually the biggest round funding-wise at the time was yours, Sandhya. It was your series, your seed, your 4.6 million seed, and so that's where the industry was then. As of Wednesday, investor Michal Klar and I put out the latest research. So the first total funding for the Asia alt protein space, and we're talking about $230 million invested in the space.
Yep.
It's super exciting. So, I mean, obviously, Sandhya, you're a big part of that. You've had some big raises this year.
Oops, we lost her. Okay. I am going to continue for Sonalie while she joins back, but I guess she was just talking about how the Asia Pacific landscape for cell-based meat or alternative protein in general has changed a lot over time. So Shiok Meats, my company, was founded in August 2018. And at that point, we were the only cell-based meat company in Singapore and Southeast Asia. And then now 2.5 years, we're fast forwarding 2.5 years, and we literally have at least 10 companies in this part of the world. Singapore itself has about 3 or 4 cell-based meat companies at this point, definitely a lot more plant-based meat companies as well. And Sonalie was just mentioning that they just put out a report that said that in APAC alone, $230 million has gone into alternative protein in the last 2 years. So that's huge. I mean, starting off with just one company in 2018 to where we are currently is great. And Shiok Meats, yes, did raise a huge Series A round, about $12.6 million very recently. And we're very, ecstatic and excited and looking forward to setting up actually the first ever cell-based meat manufacturing plant in Singapore, and hopefully launching our product by 2022 in Singapore. So it's I would say it's a pretty interesting year. Yes, given COVID and all of the restrictions and no travel per se, but I think we have all been working really hard and smart to get to where we are. And we'll be hearing from some of the larger companies today, or the startup companies from alternative protein, both plant-based and cell-based today after this. And I'm very excited for it. And as Ira was mentioning, there's a lot more exciting news that's going to come about Shiok Meats next week. So do look forward to that. I'm not sure if Sonalie is joining back. I'm not sure if her connection is okay. Emma or Ira, can you just tell me if Sonalie is coming? Yeah.
Well, I've just heard from the tech guys here that we don't have Sonalie right now. But I do have a question for you, because otherwise you would now be chatting together with the Green Queen. So I now put on the Green Queen hat.
Yes.
Hello, I'm Sonalie. Hello here.
Yes, Ira, tell me.
I went to the hairdressers. Why is it so obvious, or how come Singapore is in the front of this for so long? Because I don't know whether I told you, but my father was approached to come and work in Singapore in the beginning of 2000 already. And at the time he was already aging. So he said to me, Ira, you have to go there. And I said, no way, I'm not going there. But maybe I made a huge mistake. I would have been your neighbor, which would have been great. And maybe I also would have had an amazing startup there.
Well, it's never too late, Ira, honestly. You can come over anytime. You're welcome here. I'm sure we could make sure that you come here and settle down comfortably. But I think Singapore is a country. Oh, Sonalie is here. Okay, but I'm
Guys, you can get me out again.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I had a massive connection fail. Obviously, keep talking, Sandhya.
Yes. So Ira was just asking as to how Singapore is so much in the forefront of alternative protein and how we're kind of able to do it all. I would just say that once Singapore makes up its mind, it doesn't go back, and it makes sure that it achieves it. Last year, Singapore actually announced the 30 by 30 food mandate, where they said that they're going to increase in-house food production from the current 10% to 30% by 2030. So it's called the 30 by 30 mandate. We are a really small country, city, island, but we are about 6 million in population, and we import 90% of our food. So food safety, food security is always an issue. And COVID has kind of brought out this issue a lot more in terms of where we were getting our food from, whether there was an issue shipping it in or, getting it from the producer and supplier. And then Singapore said, you know what, we'll put our foot down and say that we're going to increase in-house food production, but we have a lack of space and land. So they said, let's fund companies that don't need much space and land. So they started investing and supporting companies that do plant-based meats, cell-based meats, vertical farming, urban farming, and so on. And Singapore is well known for skyscrapers. So we're looking at really achieving farming in really tall buildings in the future. So that's kind of where Singapore comes from. And I think that is what Ira was saying. But I'd love to hear about what's happening in Hong Kong and the rest of Asia from you.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to add one more thing about Singapore, kind of a feather in the cap of the government, is that Temasek, the investment arm of the Singapore government, is really holds the crown for being, one of the most forward-thinking investment kind of vehicles in the world. Because if you look at them and their record, they invested in Impossible Meat and they invested in Just Egg way before anyone else did. We're talking almost 10 years ago. So that kind of forward thinkingness, even before the 30 by 30 plan, is very, it's very impressive. I don't think anyone else was looking at things that clearly. And to really have understood that, these companies were not just making veggie burgers and that they were really doing something different and really changing the paradigm, I think is really worth calling out. As for the rest of Asia, listen, Asia's a funny place, right? First of all, unlike the US or even Europe to some extent, every single country is quite different, right? We don't have one economic group. Everybody has a different cuisine, a different language. very different food cultures. There are 13 major food cuisines in Asia and dozens more sub-cuisines. And the other thing is there's very different levels of, GDP per capita. It varies a lot. And then, of course, we have the two big, the dragon and the elephant. We have China, we have India. We're looking at we're the most populous region in the world. By 2050, we're going to have 5 billion people here. So one of the things that's really important to understand and to contextualize why it's so important for alternative protein to really take off is because we have a protein problem. And as of today, Asians do not consume as much protein, especially animal protein, as, for example, Europeans and definitely not as North Americans. But if Asians were to consume as much animal protein as, say, a US consumer, then we would not be able to meet that demand. So I think governments in Asia are under tremendous pressure with regards to food security and just food availability. Not only do we just not have the resources because it's too much meat to give everyone, but we also have the consequences of climate change, which have obviously put a huge strain on agricultural resources. So Asian governments are aware that there's a problem. And I think they've been watching what's going on in the US with companies like Impossible and Beyond, et cetera. And then, of course, we have our homegrown. Hong Kong is a very special place in the alternative protein world because of a man called David Young and, of course, Green Monday. So he is really the man that brought Beyond Meat outside of the US before it was available anywhere else. And he kind of convinced them to launch it here. And then a year later, Impossible launched their thing here, and Just Egg is here. And today, in Hong Kong, we can get, almost every major alternative or plant-based meat and seafood company in our supermarkets or our restaurants. And of course, we had the launch in 2018 of Omni Pork, which was the first real disruptor for Asian-style plant-based foods. So I think in Asia, if we just did this sort of funding wrap up, and out of the 230 million, 86% was plant-based. Yeah. I think one thing that's interesting in Asia is we don't have a lot of fermented that the fermentation tech isn't really a big thing yet. We do seem to have all these badass female scientist founders who start cell-based companies like yourself and Feng Ru at Turtle Tree, and of course Carrie at Avon Meat, who I believe is speaking in this event, and who just launched her cell-based fish fillet and did a tasting yesterday, which is just so exciting because it's definitely the first company in Asia to do that on the fish level. You guys are obviously the first to do it with seafood, with shrimp, right?
Yeah.
A couple of years back now already, or a year ago.
2.5. We started 2.5 years. Yeah.
Wow. So there you go. And then Turtle Tree is just going from strength to strength with their alternative dairy. And of course, what's really exciting with them is also the cell-based human breast milk, which, let's be honest, is going to throw the infant powder industry, a bomb. I don't think they're going to know what's going to have hit them, because what mother would choose powder from a cow when she could have, cell-based human breast milk, which is what babies really are evolved to consume.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I think there's so much happening. Like the other day, I was speaking to another media website, and we were having the chat as well, where we were saying there's so much happening, we can't keep up, honestly. And I was chatting with another media outlet, and she was like, oh my God, there's so much. I really can't keep up. And please, if there's an embargo, then let me know on that morning so that I'm able to publish it based on that, because there's so much around us happening just in APAC, Asia Pacific alone. And I guess I like what you said in terms of, we have the two largest populations of the world. 65% of the population lives in APAC. And honestly, if all of us start eating meat the way Europe and the America does, we don't have enough meat here. We just don't have enough protein here. And that's a big worry for us. And we are the most, I would say, proliferating part of the world as well. I mean,
of course.
Yeah, exactly.
And we have rising middle classes to the tunes of hundreds of millions of citizens, you know, in India and China and Indonesia and Philippines and Malaysia. We're just not going to make it. We're literally not going to be able to feed them the meat and the seafood that they want.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I'm mindful of time with that. Ira, you can take over. I think, Sonalie, anything else to add or ask?
One of the things I do want to add, and I think that it makes Asia really unique, there are two things that we've seen this year. Is one, it's not enough for a couple of big Western companies to have the solution. I think we need homegrown entrepreneurs, like, for example, David Young, or even, you know, the newer ones like a Future Meat or even Integriculture, all of these companies that are looking at things from an Asian point of view. And that's extremely important. And I think we're going to see a lot of fun, interesting, innovative development from different entrepreneurs in alt protein in each country. And I'm really excited for that, because Asia is probably the most exciting place for food, in my opinion, just in terms of the variety and the depth of cuisine. And so it's going to be exciting to see all of these homegrown entrepreneurs do their own thing and not just kind of make a burger, right? And then the second thing I want to say is that I think what's really going to happen in Asia that is going to be harder in the rest of the world is price parity.
Yeah,
I think affordability is going to be key here. And you can see companies like Good Dot in India that do plant-based meats. They've already achieved price parity with meat and chicken.
Sonalie, I love this bridge. So what I'm going to do now is send Sandhya to her breakout, because she has a lot to share around crustaceans. And Sonalie, will you help me now introduce Good Do or Good Dot? I'm always confused about those two names.
Yes, sure.
Sure. And Abhinav is waiting for us to listen to his story. And personally, I can't wait for Abhinav to be a corner store around the corner. So Abhinav and Sonalie, thank you so much for now.
Thank you so much, Ira. I'm absolutely thrilled to introduce Abhinav. I mean, I've spent a lot of time talking to him back and forth for stories and understanding his company. And of course, it's a perfect segue, because I just mentioned how one of the most important things that Good Dot has done is shown that price parity is possible. And to go back to one of Ira's earlier confusions, Good Dot and Good Do are two different brands from the same founders. One is their kiosk kind of vegan, kind of plant-based quick service restaurant business, and one is, of course, their meat alternative business. Am I getting it right, Abhinav?
Absolutely. I think you got bang on.
Okay, you go ahead.
All right. Good afternoon, evening, whatever it is in different parts of the world, everyone. Thanks for having me here. So maybe I can just quickly share the short presentation if you guys need it, or we can walk through it. Let me just share that for a second. Share. So what I'll do is briefly, I'm going to talk to you about the Good Dot story and the Good Do story, how they evolved very briefly, and talk about where we are at and where we intend to be in a nutshell, and then we can discuss further in the breakout sessions, right? So guys, I represent this company called Good Dot, and later I'll talk about a second company which causes confusion. But let's just talk about Good Dot. We are amongst the early movers in the plant-based meat space in India. And Good Dot, as Sonalie mentioned, what we have been very astutely focusing on is breaking the three critical barriers for food, right? Which is taste, first of all, and secondly, scale and price. So we have focused very hard and long in ensuring that we can come up with products that meet these critical barriers. And I think we have crossed, all these three with some of our products, because we feel the only way we can disrupt the massive meat industry and lead to sustainable food industry is when meat is adopted, or plant-based meat, alternative meats are adopted en masse, right? And hence these three, price especially becomes very, very critical apart from taste. So why we exist? first of all, very central to our existence is animal ethics. We are a bunch of people who are very, very focused on, concerned about the lack of compassion in our food systems. And we feel that animals don't need to be killed for our eating pleasure or nutrition or any other reason. So that is central to our being. With important externalities of environmental sustainability and human health that comes with a plant-based switch from a meat-based to a plant-based diet. Briefly, we are a bunch of people. The core team is, there's a lot of confusion, so there are similar names here. Abhishek is the CEO of Good Dot, and I'm Abhinav, and we happen to be brothers. And I head Good Do, which is the QSR arm, a quick service restaurant arm. Deepak Parihar is a very close friend and business associate of ours who heads the finance. And Shruti, and she happens to be our sister, she is a culinary expert and she leads product development for us. We have a large team of food scientists, food technologists, and marketing and other professionals who we are over 150 strong right now and looking to grow further. Now, briefly, our product portfolio, we have focused on products that are shelf stable and so that we can actually meet the masses where they're at, especially in the developing world where cold chain is very limited. So all our products currently are shelf stable, where we have veg bites, which is a red meat alternative. Think of lamb or goat meat more so. And in certain cases can be made to, replicate beef as well. We've got some dry products, again, very low cost product for the masses. Some ready to eat options, which is your achari tikka and Thai curry. So we've got a vegan Thai curry with mock meat in them, or mock meat in them. And achari tikka is, as you know, a very popular tikka starter. It's just a heat and eat option. Then we have rice-based dishes, which is big with Indians. So we've got biryani and pulao, which is the Indian pilaf. Both in an easy to cook as well as take and go kind of options where you just put hot water. We also have various upcoming products now, including chicken alternatives, tunas, and ready-made products like curries, which are going to be shelf stable, and the very flavorable Indian curries that the world loves. There's a quick video of the veg chicken that is going to be launched very shortly. Hopefully, you guys can see this. All right. Now, Good Dot, as I mentioned, we have some key parameters that we focus very strongly on, which is having a wide product portfolio to suit different kinds of requirements. And we bring upstream products, which you can take and make and use in any which way you want, whether you want a kebab or a curry or a mince meat to make a burger, patty, whatever. Our products are very affordable. We have actually hit price parity, and several of our products are actually priced lower than their corresponding meat alternatives. They are, of course, healthier from the point of view of their components as well as the way we have engineered them, and they are shelf stable. So that takes a lot of the environmental footprint, cost, and other aspects associated with meat consumption. We are present in B2C channels through a large network in India with 8,000 stores in the country. We are in the B2B segments in the HoReCa and food manufacturing businesses. We export within South Asia to Bangladesh and Dubai and Nepal. Very shortly, our products are going to be available in Canada and Africa as well, with other geographies in the works as we speak. In India, we have a large public sector, so several large public sector enterprises do take our products from the point of view of nutrition and cost and the marriage of the two. I won't get into the details. I guess you guys all know plant-based meats are going to be healthier, and what you can see is our products are, compared favorably on the protein and fiber and other parameters, right? In terms of cost, forget everything else. What you can see is the cost per portion of our one of our let's say lamb meat or goat meat dishes is about 40% lower than corresponding red meat alternative. We are present from everyone from a large chain like a Marriott to a small individual small restaurants in India. Various media coverages, and now the second part, which talks about the second business that we have, which is a chain of vegan quick service restaurants called Good Do, and they are named similarly, but they have different origins. Now we again, Good Do, the compassion happens to be, or rather is very central to why we are doing this. And Good Do is actually named after this goat who we rescued from a meat shop, from a butcher shop, and whose name was Good Do, and which is an Indian term of endearment here. And we use that to name our restaurant and restaurant chain, and he's our mascot. The kind of food that we serve, it's a marriage of Eastern and Western hits, from a fried chicken alternative to burgers, to curry bowls and Indian flatbread with curries as well. Some more images. You can see here that the pricing that we have is very, very, very affordable even for our quick service arm. For example, a fried chicken burger alternative is just about $1.5 compared to $2 for a large international chain products. What we focus very keenly on is on the taste, nutrition, very importantly the price, quality, and accessibility. And we ensure that if you meet these 5 parameters, we can meet the customers where they're at and where their comfort levels are. Who is it meant for? Of course, for vegans who are looking for meat textures and high protein products in their diet and a new experience. For vegetarians, which is a big part of India, where most people go for, most vegetarians go for paneer, which is a cottage cheese, dairy-based cottage cheese product. And this provides an alternative to them, a unique taste and texture. Finally, also, of course, for the non-vegetarians who are looking to convert for various reasons, or at least reduce for health or nutrition or environmental ethical reasons. So Good Do, currently we are in 3 cities, which is Udaipur, which is where we are headquartered. We are in Mumbai, and we very recently entered New Delhi as well. We have different formats, from food trucks to sit-down restaurants to small takeaway kiosks, small outlets and takeaway kiosks. Again, very glad for the media coverage that we've got, where people have enjoyed the work we're doing. We've been rated India's best vegan restaurant. We've got the world's 2nd best vegan food truck by Lonely Planet, and so on. Thanks to Peter and GQ as well. And that's the story of Good Dot and Good Do, guys.
Hi, Abhinav.
Hey, Mara. How are you?
Nice meeting you.
Same here. Likewise.
Yeah, so thank you very much for your presentation. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you very much. Thanks
and
a lot.
It's wonderful to hear that you're doing such a great product, so price competitive from India.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, we focused very, as I mentioned, we got into this with a singular aim of looking to disrupt the meat industry, which we feel is just way too intrusive on animal ethics. So we had to do that, and we focus on every single aspect of our enterprise, from costs, ingredients to personnel costs.
Yeah, I completely agree, because I'm actually doing some vegan cookies, and I want to explore and do other products too, and also healthy ones. That's why I want to talk to you, because I want to maybe include your products in our production. And the main focus that I really want to put on the business and on people's mind is we cannot compete against animal products if we're not competing in price and quality.
Yeah.
We cannot be double price.
Absolutely. See. I mean, clearly, meat industry, meat is a commodity, right? We cannot. Okay, fine. I mean, you can survive and do well as a high-end brand focusing on the high-end markets and the the fancy restaurants. But in order to make the impact,
target the masses, right?
Yeah, it has to be the masses. Yeah.
I completely
agree. So we do have products for, of course, the higher the premium products for the higher end segment, and that's easier. Once you've got I would say the masses are the higher are not low hanging fruits. They're much higher up the tree. And I think since we've been able to do that, the getting to the premium segment is way easier.
Yeah, I think so too. Do you mind if I catch up with you later? Like maybe I'm thinking, like, can you export and to Spain, maybe Europe? Is it possible?
Yeah, so we are FDA approved. Our products are going to be in Africa and Canada shortly.
Awesome.
We are in discussions for a launch in Scandinavia in some time. So yeah, I mean, that should be doable. In fact, we are in discussions with a major manufacturer in Spain for some collaboration as well.
Okay, wonderful. I'm in touch with if you need. So which
Okay.
I think it's not your target. I think they are having higher prices, but
Sure.
I took the freedom to send your information about your company to a friend of mine working in Lidl.
Okay.
So maybe
In Lidl.
Lidl,
Okay.
yeah, the company, because they make products with
Sure.
chicken meat.
Meat. Okay, sure.
And so it's interesting. And I also am in touch with Eura, Foods for Tomorrow.
Yeah, Eura Foods, yeah.
So I think you're competitors, but if you ever need to meet. Yeah,
sure, absolutely. I mean, it'll be good to connect. I think we can connect on LinkedIn there. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, wonderful. Then I think I already added you on LinkedIn.
Okay, sure.
I will write you here my LinkedIn just in case I added you.
For sure. All right. Take care. Have a good one.
Bye. Have a good one.
Ciao.
Hey.
Hello.
Yeah, I could.
Hey, Kevin.
I'm sorry.
How are you?
Oh, very fine. Thank you. I have this as if it was tonight. Wow. Well.
Yeah.
I don't know the reason why I have issues with my camera at the moment.
Yeah, it looks like there's some lighting issue.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, that's the best. So let me make it very simple. I'm managing a startup accelerator that is based in Paris.
Okay.
We are friends with ERA, and I'm also one of the co-founders of the French Cellular Hag Association.
Okay.
So my role is to help accelerate the development of such kind of project in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also very close to Andrew Hive. You probably have heard about him.
Yeah.
I wanted just to understand one thing, because I couldn't attend the whole of your presentation.
Yeah. Sure.
Are you dealing with plant-based foods or?
Yes. At this point of time, it's plant-based foods.
Okay.
Given my our background though, as a protein chemist with background in the biomedical sciences, cell ag is something that we'll be looking at some point as well.
Okay.
But I mean, right now our focus is plant-based.
Okay, very clear. And from what I understand, you produce locally in India, and if you would be selling in other geography, would it be produced in India, or would you foresee having production in other countries?
No, so there are, I guess, sort of three levels to it. One is, as you very well know, production would make sense given scale, right? Mm-hmm. Given the economy of scale, production is localizing production actually makes sense, right? Because the cost that you will be using to produce in place X and then pack and distribute and have the losses and then all those export and import duties and so all those costs get added on, right? Local production would be advantageous in certain regards given the scale. So that's something that we are open to, and something that we are discussing with some of our partners. But of course, at the outset, it probably would not make sense for any party to start producing in any distant location that you don't know much about. You don't know about the uptake of the product. But if let's say you've launched the product, you get great traction, then why not? Yeah.
But yeah, because it would mean for you that you would have to unveil your recipe to your partners,
right?
And this is probably the core of your IP, in fact.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, there can be two ways about it, right? Where you work with a manufacturer who you can have great working relations, and you have complete confidence in the right, in your ability to retain and for them to respect the IP, right? And or you try to jump in it yourself with a local ground support in some other means, right? So then there can be two different ways about it when one looks at that.
Yeah, and in fact, given the particularities of intercultural differences when it's about food,
yeah,
I can understand that even with an international background and education, understanding the specificities of European cultures may be quite complex, and you definitely would need to have a local partner.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's something I think, as you mentioned, while we have that international exposure, we can't claim to know the local markets, in depth by any stretch of imagination, right? However, where, there can, again, with respect to the local manufacturing, you can have a different sort of level of manufacturing, where let's say the mock meat itself can be manufactured in India and sent, and then you can have value-added work being done there, right? So you can get it to a food processing or a food manufacturing unit who takes our mock meat and then creates something other out of it, and then so it's a marriage of two advantages.
What in your mind would be the perfect partner that you would be looking for in Europe?
So at the very beginning, as I mentioned, so it would be because we have got products, both base products, which are plant-based meat chunks that you can do anything with, as well as, so our strength, of course, being from India, is creating products with Indian spices and stuff, right? So we've got those ready to eat products as well, which I know, for example, when we have shared it with some of our friends and colleagues in the Western markets, including Netherlands and actually someone from south of France and in Marseille and US and Canada, we've got great feedback saying that you guys clearly know your mock meat is great, right? Your plant-based meat is great, and of course you guys bring that authenticity of flavors. So one of the things that they suggest is come up with your own products and enter the markets straight up, saying that okay, we're a company from India and we're proud of it, and we've got these amazing Indian-based products, right? Which is ready to eat, and get the market like that, create an awareness, and at the same time, then you work with someone who has a local know-how, who can either help you create new products or create products with your end product. So for the first part, we would be looking at a channel partner, a distribution partner who's got great connects and networks and reach for and who can understand where these products would fit, which chains, which cities, etc., right? So that would be the first level of discussion and the first level of partnership that we'd be looking at, and that's the kind of partnership that we are already exploring in Africa and Scandinavia and Canada. So we've got channel partners who know the market, and we are selling them our products, and then they are doing all the local legwork. So those two kinds of partnerships broadly.
And in terms of if there would be a local production, do you have any technical constraints that has to be taken into account?
Not really. I think because we own the complete end-to-end manufacturing and technical know-how, and so it would just be finding the right vendors and the right partners for your ingredients, and so technically no, there's nothing that's holding us back.
What I understand of what you're saying is that you recommend building on the very on your know-how in making Indian vegan food or vegan Indian food, and this is where your know-how would be the best used, and deployed. In this case, I may have some ideas for France, because there are one or two brands and people who've been quite successful in emerging with a strong brand dealing with Indian culture food.
Okay, understood. No, for sure. So I think that would be the easiest. So as I mentioned, so we've got some products which are ready to eat. It's all set for people to take and run with, right? Then we've got base products. So we are coming up with, for example, the veg chicken that was there in my presentation that's going to be launched shortly, and we've got it's a very neutral product, which in our minds it's one of the best plant-based chickens out there. And it can be used across from a salad topping to a burger to a curry to a tikka, whatever you want it, right? So it has a very broad use case and very easy because it's shelf stable. So that product again can be if I took that and place it in any supermarket, given the initial triability, that product would do well anywhere, right? Similarly, so we don't want to give some other base products which, for example, require some skills as the first entry into that market. So the ready-to-eat products, as well as the very versatile universal products, would be something that we would initially aim to start with.
Oh, that's very clear. What I propose is that I will connect with you through LinkedIn.
Sure.
And then we can follow up. I can share some information, some more information about us and the people I'm thinking about in terms of potential partners. Okay.
Absolutely. All right.
Thanks
so much,
one
Kevin.
last question.
Yes, please.
What kind of raw ingredient do you use?
So we use.
Are they local? Yeah. Are they local or?
Sure. So we use. In India also, we don't, like Europe, we don't use genetically modified foods, right? So we don't have GM foods here. Our products are non-GMO. In terms of the major ingredients, we use all the three main plant protein ingredients being used thus far, which is soy, pea, and wheat, where we source most of them locally. I think a couple of the concentrates we import, but almost everything else is locally sourced from India. And then there are certain specialty ingredients that we source from some of the top global players that will be present everywhere.
Very clear. So I am connected in France with not only with startups, but with a lot of with most of the big food companies, because part of my job is to connect newcomers with existing actors.
Yeah, sure.
And so this is really interesting.
Right.
Thank you very much.
So much. Thank you so much. It's a
Have
pleasure
a good
talking.
day.
You too.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I'm Yuki Hanyu, the founder of the Shoji Meat Project, our citizen science community developing DIY cell-cultured meat, and also Integriculture Company, a cellular agriculture startup. Since childhood, I've been growing up with science fiction. And in the science fiction anime and manga that I've been enjoying, cell-cultured meat was always there, along with other science fiction stuffs like spaceships and Mars colonies. And in 2014, when I was to settle down on science fiction, one science fiction to actually do, I landed on cell-cultured meat because I thought it was the right time that humanity needs this technology. But at the same time, I also realized that probably business or startup alone is not the answer to bring science fiction technology to reality. Then Shoji Meat Project held up the visions of dream cellular agriculture future, where technology is serving humanity by the hands of masses everywhere, including space. So after Shoji Meat Project, two more entities spun off. One is Integriculture Company. The other is Cellular Agriculture Institute of the Commons, which is a non-profit. And each came with their own long-term goals. So Integriculture company, as a for-profit entity, goes to commercialize the cell cultured products and also scale fast enough. And Cellular Agriculture Institute of the Commons engages in public communication and rulemaking. And Shojin Meat Project, as a citizen science community, is committed to give technology to the masses and nurture decision makers of the next generation. So I would like to stand here and review where we are and how we've come. So on the Shojin Meat Project side, we have two spin-offs, one for-profit, one non-profit. And technology for the masses, we have demonstrated DIY cell culture, which would evolve into DIY cell cultured meat. And the other is nurturing future decision makers. One is kids, which is obvious, the next generation decision maker. And the other are informing politicians, policymakers, and regulators on the topic. And they are very near future decision makers. So in a way, Shojin Meat Project has always been there behind the scenes of cellular agriculture in Japan. Cellular Agriculture Institute of the Commons has recently been heavily engaged in roundtable discussions to bring the technology of cellular agriculture to the society in a good shape. And there's a rulemaking discussions going on in Japan that's originally started from Tama University Center for Rulemaking Studies and also Ministry of Agriculture and Forest and Fisheries. And this roundtable discussion involves participants from various sectors, from general public food companies, academics, the policymakers. And out of these discussions, we are seeing discussions like cell licensing by farmers or collaborations between startups and big food, and also how we reflect consumer voices to product R&D and other topics, with an idea of like no one left behind in this cellular agriculture revolution. On the Integriculture company side, we have developed a bioreactor system which doesn't rely on cell immortalization or externally added growth factors. We are hoping that not using these two things makes it more consumer acceptable and also makes it permissible under current regulations. In fact, the cell cultured foie gras that we have demonstrated last year is, strictly speaking, already marketable, at least in Japan, because it doesn't use any externally added growth factors or immortalized cell lines, which may classify as GMO. The company is moving to build this cellular agriculture infrastructure or large-scale cell culture system in collaboration with multiple companies. So this scheme is called the Comet Consortium, and there are already more than 10 plus joint projects going on. And this consortium is divided into 5 fields. And cell source, that's where farmers are involved. And standardized culture medium, that's where beer and beverages companies are involved. And Comet hardware and product bioreactors are where manufacturers are involved. So how do we compare to where initially we've envisioned? So for Integriculture company, commercialization, cosmetics launching in April, cell cultured foie gras launching in December, and scaling fast enough. So it is already involved in active partnerships where more than 10 companies could be launching cell cultured products or part of the cellular agriculture infrastructure by some means. And the non-profit Cellular Agriculture Institute of the Commons, so it's a public communication, the work is still in progress, but the first draft policy proposal is expected to come out on December this year. And for the rulemaking, it's heavily involved in the roundtable discussion where many sectors are involved. And with the Shojin Meat Project, giving technology to the masses, so DIY cell culture methods has been prototyped, and the next generation decision makers being nurtured behind the scenes for near and far future. So from here on, I'm talking about possible scenes of cellular agriculture future. Some of the things we would like to see in the future are like farmers selling meat or cells and not cow. And so that means there will be fewer cows in the farms and bioreactors in the backyard. That's one possibility of the future. And in this kind of world, various types of cell-based meat will be developed in citizen science domain. Some could be developed by farmers, some could be by local chefs, and some by meat enthusiasts or hobbyists. And some good ones could go to product development and scale into business domain. And in this kind of world, how to make cell cultured meat will be open, but how to scale can be proprietary. This is another possibility of a future farm. So there are very few cows, which means they can be grown in heavily urban centers, like farm in a downtown skyscraper. And in this farm, like unnoticeable biopsies conducted, like from hair cells and hair cells are converted into stem cells, and stem cells was converted into like fat cells, muscle cells, and everything. Which means in this farm, perhaps just one cow is sufficient. And meat brewery might look like this. So huge tanks like growing muscle cells at 200-ton scale. And this may look like a beer factory. And steak brewery may look like this, where single-use culture bags are used and steak is growing inside. The same can be, of course, applies to seafood. One thing to note is that seafood cell culture is likely to happen at room temperature than 38 degrees. So it may simplify the system. If done in larger scale, then fish cell culture could be done at ocean temperature in huge floating bioreactors. Production of cell cultured meat in scale would require cell culture medium in scale. But if we can harvest cell culture medium from microalgae grown on ocean surfaces, the supply can practically become unlimited. Further down the road, we may see complete merger of agriculture and manufacturing industry by cellular agriculture. Vast area of land gets reverted to nature. If this happens in a more distributed manner, we may see sceneries of solar punks where democratized cellular agriculture takes hold. In this world, we see community bioreactors and in zero or even negative carbon footprint vertical farm skyscrapers. Another application is space. In fact, there's a consortium of companies in Japan working on space food production system in space. And Integriculture company is taking part for meat. And that's another one of my vision of animal cell and microalgae closed loop culture in zero gravity. This is already actually under research by JAXA, which is the Japanese NASA. And the whole process could even be nuclear powered if situated on Pluto or outer rims of the solar system, where solar power is not an option. So in this kind of facility, the plutonium crust materials, which is methane, ammonia, and other volatile elements, are converted into biomass. But for the more nearer future, I would like to see a similar thing happening on Mars, where Martian atmosphere and soil is turned into biomass for hundreds and thousands of colonists to come. Back to the beginning, that's the sort of the scene that we would like to see in the future, where 13-year-old Martian native going into the Earth for a school trip, coming back with Wagyu cells and growing that at home. So that's where we are now. Thank you very much for listening.
A fairy tale. Once upon a time, there was an entrepreneur. And this entrepreneur was seeking the fabled animal, the unicorn. Now, the unicorn has a magical horn that can heal the sick. Its poop is rainbows. It is a magic animal. And the entrepreneur seeks to find and tame this animal. And most of us believe that the entrepreneur is driven by the desire to find this unicorn. But there's another animal in the forest, the dragon. And every entrepreneur has their own dragon. And when in fact we believe that the entrepreneur is driven to find the unicorn, in truth, they are running from their dragon. Now, they believe that if they can capture their unicorn, they can defeat the dragon. But this is silly if we look at these two animals. How will this unicorn stand up against this fire-breathing dragon? Now, the interesting thing about the dragon is it will imitate whatever action the entrepreneur does. If the entrepreneur runs away from it, it gives chase. If the entrepreneur turns to fight it, it fights back. If the entrepreneur seeks to hide from it, it seeks the entrepreneur. The only thing to do with the dragon is to sit down and ask it to have tea, to which the dragon will sit down and have tea. See, we cannot kill the dragon because the dragon is a part of us, and the dragon is where our vital life force lives, our instinctual energy. We want to integrate that energy, not run from it. We want to take that dragon energy and be able to focus it and channel it to the very goals we're seeking to achieve. This is the image the entrepreneur must seek, not the riding of the unicorn, but the riding of the dragon.
Hi, Lim.
Hello, Sandhya.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Great. Yeah, so I think we have about 10 minutes or so for our fireside chat. I'm very excited to chat with you today. I know we were there on a panel very recently, a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So good to see you again.
Good to see you again.
Yes. So I think for the benefit of everybody here, it'll be great if you can introduce yourself and your company, and then we can chat after that.
Sure. Hi everyone. My name is Jin. You can call me Jin. I'm the co-founder and chief operating officer of Future Foods. It sounds like futuristic, but basically it spells with a PH. So PHUTURE, Future Foods, right? The whole concept is simple. We believe all of us here in the food tech space, we are at the evolution era, right, where we actually create new kind of food, right, whether it's cell-based or plant-based, but basically every one of us here is trying to create a new generation of food that is delicious for everyone, that is good for the planet, good for the animals, and good for yourself as well. So the goal of Future Foods is really simple. We want to develop the most delicious plant-based meat for the Asian market, right? And we started off with a minced meat version. It's versatile, right? And it's made from non-GMO soy, chickpea, pea, and rice protein, right? And it's, like what I said, it's super versatile. It can be made into a variety of dishes, ranging from patty to sausages to meatballs, and all the way to our Asian cuisines like the dumplings and the baos and the yong tau fu and many more. So right now we already have presence in Singapore, Hong Kong, and Thailand, and we're looking to launch into Malaysia, China, and also Australia next year. So happy to be here, and thanks once again for organizing this, Sandhya. It looks like a super exciting event, and I hope all of us can find our dragon.
Sounds good. Thank you, Jin. I think, because we are from Singapore and Asia, I think we can drive this conversation towards like food trends in Asia, because they are very, very different from the West, as we know. Like you were mentioning some of the Asian dishes that I know of, but probably the Europeans and Americans aren't aware as much. So I think, Sonalie from Green Queen just mentioned this as well, saying that, we can't just have one or two big American or European brands just come over to Asia, set up and cater to this market. We need a lot more regional homegrown brands like yourself and ourselves to kind of cater to the Asian population where 65% of the world's population lives in.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what do you think? What's your, what do you think at Future Foods when you ideate a product or, how it's made and so on? What do you have first in your mind? And then when you make the product, are you thinking of the Asian consumer?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So our focus since the start has always been Asia, because we grew up in Asia. So, the way we eat is so different. And we range from the nasi lemak to our rice, to our noodles, to all the steamed dim sum or our rendang and stuff like that. So it's really different the way we eat, especially. And all the more so is the way we cook, right? We don't just do grilling, we don't just do frying or baking. We have steaming, we have boiling, we have what you call that where you cook inside a clay pot for hours and hours, and the meat gets super tender. So these are all very interesting ways that the Asians cook, right? And it's not just they do it once, sometimes they steam it first before they're going to fry, or they fry it first before they're going to steam. It's like, the food goes through so much process, and it's really exciting that we have to develop something that can suit the Asian chefs, right? Yeah. And that's what we had in mind when we actually developed the product. And and we are very happy that actually we managed to launch in Singapore, and most of them are actually in Chinese restaurants where the chef actually go through deep fry and steam. Right. And I think one of the restaurants actually made the future dumpling, right? That actually replaced the real pork dumpling in their restaurant. So I think that's one of the most exciting news for us.
Yeah, I think for us as well at Shiok Meats, it's probably the easiest to do with cell-based meats is like make a burger, like take the meat, deep fry it and make a burger. But I think one thing for us at Shiok Meats has always been, let's concentrate on Asian dishes like dumplings or noodles or soup dishes, for example, more on that. And let's not deep fry our meats. We are trying to run a nutritious, healthy, sustainable food company.
Exactly.
Why not make delicious food that is healthy as well? Let it be steamed or, sous vide or something like that instead of deep frying it in oil. So I think that's very interesting that you brought it up. It'll be great to kind of know what's your future plan. I know you are in Singapore right now and maybe other Asian countries. What are you thinking of in terms of expansion?
Right now, we're focused a lot on Asia because I think that's where our stronghold is. But of course, if out there's any partners from the US and the Europe section who like to explore collaboration opportunities, we are more than happy to have a chat and see where it goes, right? But right now, for our team being a startup that's still very young and lean, our focus is still in Asia, right? Whether is it our next immediate launch is actually in Malaysia, right, where our home country is, where our home base operation is, we are looking into the bigger markets like China, Vietnam, or even Indonesia, and hopefully we also can go into the North Asia region of Japan and Korea as well. Yeah.
So since you brought up China, I'm going to kind of talk about the dragon in the room, I think. So it's been a question that's on every Asian, I would say non-Chinese company's minds is how to get into China. It's such a huge market and it's very hard to understand the regulatory landscape there, the licenses that we have to get for export, import, or even manufacturing. It is a manufacturing country. So I would love to set up a manufacturing plant in China in the future, but it's so hard to understand what happens there. So how do you have like a magic code that can crack China?
No, unfortunately, I would like to have that magic. I would like to have that dragon with me as well. But basically, I think China being a very huge market, after being in the business for a while, I think if you ask me, I think it all boils down to people. Right. It's the people that's driving whatever that's happening, right? And it's through people that you are able to get things moving. Even like for example today, with Shiok Meats, with Kind Earth Tech, with all the audience here that that this thing can work, right? It's actually still the people, right? It's not the machines or all the AI and stuff that's doing it. It's still the people behind, and it boils down to this as well in the business, right? That going to China, I think you still need to find the right people, right? Someone you can trust,
find the right partner, right? Yeah.
Yes, and someone who believes in your vision as well, having the same vision as the company, to drive things and to make things work, and most important is to be trustworthy as well. Yeah, so we are still sourcing around as well, and I think we've met quite a few. We are in discussion, and hopefully we can, like what you say, crack the magic. Right?
Yeah, so Ira and team, if you're listening, we should do a Chinese KET. So we can kind of enter that market and get the right partners maybe. And if someone from China or somewhere near China is listening to us, please let us know, and we are happy to let you and partner.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm going to be very wary of time. I think we had about 10 minutes. We have probably about 2 minutes left. Why don't you kind of take that time to talk about more of your product? I know you have said it's made from soy and chickpea and so on, but what's the thought process between what goes into your product? And are you ever looking at a structured meat product rather than just minced?
Right now, we are focused a lot on the minced product because I think we still can do a lot of value add to it, because I think being in Asia, minced meat product is still something that is very prevalent in what we eat, especially like in Singapore, our hawkers, we have a lot of bak chor mee, right? And bak chor mee is just the Singapore version. You have the bakso in Indonesia, you have the Chi Yok Fan in Malaysia, and even in Thailand, you have the pakaprao, right? The Thai basil pork. So I think minced meat is still a very prevalent meat in Asia, I think when we developed this product, the reason why we chose actually the 4 different types of legumes is actually because we want to create a more holistic product, right? Because not eating meat, you actually lose some of the essential amino acid profile that the body can make, right? And actually some of these legumes they provide all these essential amino acids, and by combining these different types of legumes, we actually create a more complete amino acid profile for our consumers. And behind that, we don't use any preservatives, we don't use any chemicals or synthetic stuff like that. Everything's natural flavors, natural colors. Even our colors, we are using what we call lycopene, right? It's actually a reddish color that you take from tomato, and we combine it with the sort of like purplish, pinkish red from the red beet, right? And that's what makes the product look really like meat-like and stuff like that. Yeah, and most importantly, we believe in eating healthy. Yeah, so that's why when we created the product, we added rice inside, which actually through our processing technology is able to create that fatty mouthfeel, that while still maintaining a low-fat profile product. So I think that's what we were thinking behind, and with the fat, it's actually what makes minced meat so delicious in Asia.
Yeah, I mean, I love it because the plant-based meat industry has received a bit of a backlash on not being nutritious or as healthy because of all the additives. But I think we are working with you as well, Jin. I mean, we work with your products, and hopefully we can collaborate on a blend in the future. But in the future with Future Foods. But I think
our future. It's our future, everybody's future.
Yeah, so it's been very interesting that you are concentrating on the health side of things and the nutrition side, along with providing the taste, the texture, the color, the mouthfeel, the smell, all of it together. I think it's very, very interesting. So thank you so much for your time, Jin. And I know it's a very short conversation. We can keep going on and on, but
definitely.
Yeah, we will definitely
always
catch
nice
up.
Talking to you.
Yeah, thank you, Jin. Yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yeah, okay. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks. Bye. With that, we finish our fireside chat, and we're actually moving on to a couple of more presentations. Actually, the next company is Evo Foods, which is India's first plant-based liquid egg company, and I'm a proud investor in this company. With that, I hand over the stage to Evo Foods. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kartix Dixit, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Evo Foods. So today, I'm going to take you through the journey of Evo Foods and explain reasons on why we started it, what problems we saw in India, and what are we doing for India and consequently for the world by developing plant-based tech. So it all started back in August 2019. Me and my co-founder Shraddha Bansali co-founded Evo Foods back then. We wanted to do something in the plant-based spectrum. And one thing we observed by interviewing a lot of consumers in the space was that egg is usually seen as a gray area into the Indian market. So if you see India as a multi-layered vegetarianism-focused country, as I would say, 71% of India is non-vegetarian, the rest 29% is vegetarian. And out of those 29% vegetarian, which is still the largest vegetarian population in the whole world, out of those 29%, more than 50% of them said that they would like to have egg as either a non-vegetarian product or a vegetarian product. So they don't really care whether an egg is classified as vegetarian or non-vegetarian. And that was an interesting insight for us. And I think that led us to believe that egg could be the perfect gateway product for the Indian market to introduce the concept of clean protein into their diets, clean and sustainable protein into their diets. And when we went deeper into that, we've also found out that egg industry is facing a lot of issues, such as antibiotics, such as cholesterol. So according to one study of 400,000 people from all over the world, it says that if you reduce your consumption of eggs and replace it with plant-based protein, your chances of mortality are decreased by 24%. And that's higher than any other animal-based food which you can replace with plant-based protein. So replacing eggs, I think, is going to become a wide and essential phenomenon for all of our humanity. And I think that's going to be the need of the hour. Also, antibiotics are routinely used on Indian poultry farms as a substitute for sanitation. And that's why we wanted to create a plant-based egg which is devoid of antibiotics, which is devoid of animal cruelty, and which is devoid of cholesterol. And that's only possible by using plants as base ingredients. So the idea is to leverage India's whole crop biodiversity, and we leverage cutting-edge food technology to create amazing plant-based products, starting off with 100% plant-based liquid egg. And when we observe the market, the global market for plant-based egg is growing really rapidly. It's going to become a $1.3 billion industry by 2023. In the US alone, plant-based egg industry is the highest growing category as compared to other plant-based categories like plant-based milk or plant-based butter, plant-based dairy, or plant-based meat. It's growing at 192%. It has seen a surge of 192% over the last year in sales, in dollar sales. And ultimately, the egg industry globally is pegged at around $200 billion. So that's a huge market we can tap later as we go along in the journey, as we develop innovative products. So that was our thought process, and we focused on the egg because we saw that as a great opportunity to introduce the concept of clean protein in consumers in tier 1 cities in India, and then we can scale it up globally. So that was our insight, that was our way of looking into things, and we think that those are the problems which are worth solving. Apart from that, we also created our egg. We debuted the prototype at Candy and Green, Shraddha's restaurant, my co-founder's restaurant in Mumbai, and we got really amazing feedback on it. So if you want to join us in any way, if you want to partner with us, if you want to invest in us, or if you want to work with us, do reach out. I can be reached on LinkedIn. I can be reached on Twitter. So just search for Kartix Dixit and please connect with me to explore more synergies. And that's it.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. Isn't this amazing? My name is Viknish, and today I'm going to share with you how we are going to help enable this clean meat revolution. Let me explain. there are many parts that need to come together to actually have this clean meat revolution happen. As we know, there are different hurdles, different bottlenecks that we need to overcome before this becomes a reality. And so Salivate Technologies is playing its unique part in this big puzzle. So we are working on two distinct technologies, though in today's presentation, I want to just focus on one of them. The two technologies are the ability to have cells attach better and increase their growth by as little as 2 times, as much as 10 times, depending on the cell type. The other technology is the ability to have edible scaffolds for cells to grow in 3 dimensions. In today's presentation, however, I will focus on the first. What's nice about this is that it integrates very nicely into the existing workflow of most cell-based meat companies, right? Since this is a cell culture platform, naturally it can be used in the biotech space as well as in the clean meat space, though we are looking at the clean meat space as our beachhead market. Right? Our goal now is to actually go into production and to get our platform out there for companies to try. So this I think we all know, this is the standard schematic to explain what the whole cell-based meat, clean meat space is about. Basically, cells are taken from the animal, they're grown in the lab till we have enough cells, till we have enough number of cells, and then these cells are packaged, processed, are packaged into what we need to call them food at the end, right? And we also know that there are a few hurdles that we need to go through, right? There are many hurdles that we need to go through. 2 of them are the fact that they are extremely high cost and that it's very time consuming. Now, if we just zoom into the cell culture part as to what happens in the lab, right? We see that generally cells attach to a surface. If they like the surface, they flatten out and then they start the whole proliferation. So technically, if they do not like the surface, the proliferation either does not happen or the proliferation is hindered largely. So there are many players in this field. Some of them are working on the different cell types. Many of them are working on the media to get animal-free media, to optimize the media conditions for the cells to grow. Our contribution to this field is really to look at the surface itself that the cells sit on and grow. The reason why we are choosing to look at the surface or the substrate is because we have developed a very unique technology just for this purpose. We have found that by having thin film metal oxides, right? So the scale we are talking about is like 1,000 times thinner than the cell itself. So we have found that by having a unique chemistries of thin film metal oxide, we are able to have cells attach better and grow faster. So these thin films are naturally biocompatible, and it's not a one-size-fits-all that fits every cell type. Rather, we have found that by each unique cell has a unique chemistry that is best or optimized for those cell types that enable it to have this multiple fold increase. Right, so if you look at this image here, you can see the startling difference between cells with our coating versus cells without our coating. Now, we need to get enough cells before we can go into 3-dimensional structuring. And so that is why our first focus is on having platforms ready for accelerating the cell growth. What's nice about our platform is that it's completely free of animal products. It naturally saves time because with the same amount of media, you have a lot more cells over a shorter time. With the greater yield, naturally it brings about an increase in profits for our customers who are trying to produce these cells. We have tested it on different cell types, like I mentioned earlier. Though it's not a one-size-fits-all, though it's a customized method for different cell types, it does work for multiple cell types. It's also very stable at room temperature, naturally, because these are not organic coatings, these are inorganic thin films, and so they're very stable at room temperature. In fact, there's hardly any leaching even into the media. And lastly, it really integrates into the present workflow. So you don't have to make big changes in order to use our platform. And so we call out the products that come from this technology ProSite. Pro as in promoting, site as in cells. So if you look at the image on the left, what you see there is a cover slip with ProSite on it. Generally, it's colorless. The reason why you see this rainbow color on it is because we kind of manipulated the light just to show how it looks. It's extremely thin, like I mentioned, 1,000 times thinner than the cell itself. And on the right, you have the workflow, a very general workflow of the cell-based meat industry. Right? You isolate cells, you proliferate the cells, and then you proliferate the cells further in a bioreactor, and then you differentiate the cells or structure the cells, or both as to what you need. Right? And so that's where our products come in. Right? So we have ready products for cover slips and dishes. We're in the process of making different types of microcarriers, dissolvable microcarriers as well as edible microcarriers. And we are going into making edible scaffolds for 3D structure. Now, the team that has been working to make this possible is, as you see here. Before we talk about ourselves, let me bring your attention to our stalwart advisors that are helping us do that. We have Prof. Fan, who is the founder of the largest stem cell-based company in the region. Prof. Venki is a pioneer in nanotech, who's helping us to push this forward. And Prof. Ignatius was formerly in the industry, like PerkinElmer and Medtronics. He's helping us with the business part. Myself, Harish and Srinivas are pushing the technology, while Emily is helping us with the operations. We were very grateful to GFI for mentioning us as being among the top 100 startups in Asia that will make a difference in this field. And we also highlighted that Minshu Chemicals in Japan has a partner to actually bring this technology to Japan. These are the logos below represent the people who have been supporting us, including NUS, Enterprise Singapore, Trendlines, and 500 Startup. So I will stop here and I'll play a short video that summarizes what we are trying to do in the larger scale. I'm sure this video will do a much better job than I have been doing the last few minutes. I hope you enjoy it.
Cell technologies is a big and growing field with many practical applications. Growing cells, or cell culture, is a lot like farming. You need the right conditions to get a good yield. For most cells, cell culture requires the adhesion of cells to the proper substrate before they can proliferate to larger numbers and differentiate into the cell of choice. Unfortunately, many cells don't adhere properly, produce low yield, and may even have unwanted mutations. These factors, together with the expensive cell media, drives up the cost of production. However, we have made a breakthrough in cell technology. We've developed and patented the use of a revolutionary coating that allows higher cell adhesion, lets cells grow at least 2 times faster, and unlike biological or chemical coatings, have a very long shelf life. This drastically reduces cost of production, increases cell yield, and thus profit for most applications. This method is also customizable to different cell types and is compatible with present-day solutions. Our products will be used with different types of critical cells so as to overcome many global challenges, from medicine to food. Cellivate Technologies. We invite you to join us.
So now we actually have our next talk, which is Carrie Chan from Avant Meats, which is a cell-based seafood company based out of Hong Kong. and she's going to talk about sustainable marine protein. And interestingly, they just had their fish fillet that was showcased yesterday at the Rethink Agri Food Tech event. So I'm going to leave the stage with Carrie. Hi, Carrie. It's been quite a while since we chatted. I hope you're doing
Hello,
fine.
Sandhya.
Yeah. Congratulations on your recent showcase. I'm very happy for you, and we should really catch up on possibly doing a collaboration soon. So I'm going to leave the stage with you, and please go ahead. You have a presentation to share. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much, Sandhya, everyone. So I'm sharing my, let's see, is it something happening on the slide now? Okay, so it seems like there is. Is my slide showing properly?
Yes, it is.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. Really happy to join for today's chat with everyone. And it's a little bit more relaxing and casual chat on today. But today we talk a little bit about the fish, right? So why we are working? We are a self-cultivated technology company based in Hong Kong, and the first one in China. And we actually, the technology can work on different kind of meat, and we chose to work with fish to begin with. And the reason is that we see that although it is now alternative, but indeed we're actually seeing the necessity will be coming up quite soon when it comes to fish and seafood. As we see now, the catch from the ocean is actually not very stable. We have been relying a lot on aquaculture, which in the very near future will not be able to catch up with all of the demand that the world will be looking for this aquatic-based protein. And on top of that, for consumers' perspective, it might be actually necessary now because, as we know, as of today, the ocean and the marine pollution is actually quite serious. And on top of heavy metal, which we know for already decades, we now seeing more and more of the problem with microplastic that pop up in our dish of seafood dish that without us knowing, and only do we put them under a microscope, we see that, okay, Jesus, we might be eating a lot of plastic unknowingly. So I think it become a necessity very soon. And so thankfully, in this field, a lot of peers, and we've been working on this for a couple of years now, and hopefully we'll get some actually commercial product in the market very soon. And so we're looking at the different stakeholders and where this new technology, new product in the market will be happening. So of course, the first primarily is more for businesses, and we actually have been seeing requests, and actually company in the food product company, they telling us that some seafood and some fish products, the problem with their business is actually stable supply. So when the supply is not stable, which means that sometimes it's a lot, sometimes it's a little, and then the cost actually fluctuate. That affects some of the operating costs for some of these food product companies, for example, making some of this product involve things like fish and other kind of seafood. So then this will potentially actually having some of this existing business pain points. And of course, then with the new product, with the new technology, we can actually yield the actual meat directly without the need to cut up and clean and everything. So processing will be streamlined drastically. And of course, with the customizable nutritional profile, we see that we can do more precise market segmentation for the consumer product in the future. And of course, I don't need to mention about the stakeholder, including the most important, which is our environment, the dwindling marine resources, and the waste that we potentially generate through as we see on the left, the lot of parts that we do not eat using the traditional way. We might as well skip that using this technology. And of course, animals, if we can kill less animals, that will be much better. And of course, in the future, on the right-hand side, we envision a working environment a bit even more comfortable for workers. And of course, consumers, as we mentioned, that it will be ensuring that our food will be more traceable and more transparent in the way that it's produced. And so for other meats, how we started with something a little bit, maybe some of you may know that we're actually starting with something quite weird, which is fish maw. We're actually starting with doing some strategy. And I think this map will be quite familiar with fellow co-founders and founders in this field. There are so many things that we need to consider when we talk about the strategy for this alternative protein and salvage product, in particular, production costs, the price parity, market size, food culture, taste, etc. And so how we do is that we try to everything on the, and we see about how we put this technology into the context of a more Chinese cuisine kind of scenario, how we take care of that. So let's say we have something like looking at this, a scheme that we can actually answer all of this question, and then we have a design or a product or a roadmap like on the green pattern here. And then, however, actually there are many different other options, including some other way that we can also take care of different aspects of our business in like this red color pattern. And then we have a total different pattern. So the takeaway is that we see that a lot of approaches and solutions, and we see that in different parts of the world, we might actually would like to think about it in the way that will be more creative and also suiting the local culture. So the challenges that we see is now the production cost is actually quite expensive. And then in the Western menu, we see a lot of food product more in the format of burger, sausage, and nugget, etc. However, in Asia, the food that we appear on the table actually more like on the right-hand side, we see the whole fish, we see the whole chicken. And so how this new technology can actually cater for this more expectation on the part of the consumers. And then we look at many different options and how we can start, because we cannot basically replicate the whole fish and whole chicken, as we know at the moment, the current technology, at least at the beginning. And so what can we actually be an entry point, the first experience for the consumer when they encounter this new technology? And then can we actually achieve a earlier price parity here in this part of the world? And then we find some very interesting option here, which is selling very expensive. And we see that the challenges in our case, which potentially turn into opportunities. And so that's how we end up with our first idea, which is a traditional swim bladder from fish. It is a dehydrated swim bladder. We call that fish maw. In this part of the world, it is actually selling very expensive, like over 2,000 something per kg. And there are also a lot of environmental impact. It has driven extinction a couple of fish species already. So, and also traditionally it takes a lot of time and hassles to prepare that. So we imagine this traditional ingredient into a lot of different products, including snacks, dessert, appetizer. The thing that we make this ingredient now, we don't have the fishy smell. It does not break down or rot that easily. So it's actually very suitable for application in new way that we haven't imagined in the traditional way, including dessert. So, and then once we have established our platform for fish, we now actually have explored grouper, which is actually a very huge fish. It can grow to that size. Just saw a picture, and recently, we have actually achieved the first fillet product using the grouper muscle cells. And we get a chef to test it, and he said, okay, great, the texture is nice. And then he actually came up with a recipe for that. We first tried out on the burger because we know that everything that is deep fried will be tasty. So we make a burger out of it. And then we asked some people, some friends of friends to test it and actually give us feedback. So they like it. And so we're very happy about what we have done in terms of the scaffold and also the way that the cell incorporate into that. And so this is our latest update. And just to show some behind the scene, this is to imagine in the future how this product could be in the market. It could be definitely ready to cook and ready to consume full piece size of a fish cake or breaded fish fillet in the market. And so before I go, the very behind the scene kind of picture, this is how we took that actually earlier this month. And then just to let you know that the steam that actually the smoke coming out from the burger when we open it, if you remember this one, is actually done using this way. We're actually getting some smoke into this because we cannot easily capture the smoke and the steam coming out from it. So just to wrap up, the team, we're based in Hong Kong. There are two co-founders, me, myself, and Dr. Mary Trinh, happily joined recently by Eelen with a lot of traditional aquaculture background, joining us as interim CFO. So thank you very much for opportunity to speak with you today. Happy to chat further with the rest of this and also enjoying the rest of the program.
Singapore has been the gateway to Asia for centuries and still is one of Asia's leading hubs. Its strategic position, access to 650 million people and a leading financial sector makes Singapore a world-class business destination. It is one of the cleanest and safest places in the world, with an ever-strong economy and a unique international character. Simply put, Singapore is great for business. Not just for the big and well-known, but above all for the young and innovative. In Singapore, you will find a government waiting to invest in new initiatives and venture capital waiting for the next big thing. But how do you make the jump to Singapore as a Dutch entrepreneur? That's where we come in, the Netherlands Embassy in Singapore. The embassy team is here to help, not just with your passport or visa. We can link you with local enterprises or one of the 1,000 Dutch companies based in Singapore. We open doors to the Singapore government or advise you on all the chances and challenges you will find in Singapore. The Netherlands Embassy is accessible and supportive, so you can become the next big thing. The Netherlands Embassy, for a successful start in Singapore and Asia.
We are Gabby and Sabine from the Netherlands Embassy. I'm the regional startup liaison and Sabine is our agriculture advisor. Today we're standing at the Flower Dome and Gardens by the Bay in Singapore. It's the largest glass greenhouse in the world. It's spectacular, it's innovative, and it really resonates with what we do at the Netherlands Embassy. The video just shown already gives a slight idea, but at the Embassy we proactively assist and support Dutch innovative companies that want to set up their businesses in Asia. And together with my colleague Sabine, we organized the Digital Food Technician.
We have virtually introduced 10 amazing food tech startups from the Netherlands to Singapore. And this mission is aimed at strengthening the position of the Dutch food innovation ecosystem and providing insights into opportunities that Singapore has to offer. Local startups and government agencies have introduced themselves and have shown the ambition that Singapore has in food innovation. The Dutch startups had the opportunity to present themselves to a wide audience during pitch sessions. Later, they have been connected to potential partners and investors through matchmaking. It still amazes us every time how much creativity, innovation and entrepreneurship we have in the Netherlands. We are very proud to be able to help companies like that here in Singapore.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Sandhya, have you enjoyed our short visit to Singapore?
Yeah, I know that's too less. So, but I guess don't worry for the rest of all. We are doing a KET event in Singapore next year. It was supposed to be this year in April, but COVID kind of derailed all our plans. And one of the key things that my team and I wanted to do with the KET event, I mean, what's different about the whole KET event is that people get to experience, smell, touch, taste food. You know, it's not a typical conference or a seminar. It's about the experience. And we're talking about food. And it's very unfair when you're having a virtual conference and talking about food. But I think this conference has kind of, you know, set the stage for the Singaporean one. And I'm very excited. So it is happening August 2021. Yes, there's still about 10 months to go, but we are very excited. We actually had everything planned, but COVID kind of made us move it. And we, you know, contemplated whether we wanted to be virtual or in person. We decided to keep it in person. So we moved it to next year when things might get better and hopefully more safer for people to travel. I mean, at this point, if not, what we're thinking is at least we can do a local Singapore event. Singapore does allow smaller events at this point. So at least we'll have some local people able to experience the food and the products and all of the amazing thing that's happening. And in the next 10 months, we'll have a lot more updates, not only with Shiok Meats, but entire Asia Pacific and the world to talk about alternative protein. So very exciting times ahead.
Well, I totally agree with you, Sandhya, that we couldn't leave it so long because this movement is running so fast. And we started, of course, using the word update. And Olivia got really angry with me, like, update? What's an update? This is a huge event. And I said, yeah, but it's also just an update, because the huge events, those are the ones that we're going to do live again. But as you can see, there is so much to update everybody on. And can't wait for your updates, Sandhya.
I'm still not going to open my mouth.
Oh, gosh. Well, this is going to be a real cliffhanger for me. I am really like, when is she going to tell me? But okay. Well, you know, I would have been with you in April, and maybe you would have been with me in June. Let's keep our fingers crossed that we see each other in August live, and we keep in touch in the meantime. And I think KET will come up with something virtual that will also taste good and smell nice and feel good. And we'll ask Yuki to design it, something from Asia for everybody.
Oh, sounds good. Perfect. Yeah.